Happy Mother's Day. What a wonderful day seeing first service had lots of mothers in it, second service lots of mothers, and it's just wonderful to see you here today. I have to tell you though, it is almost impossible to come up with what to say on Mother's Day. Because how do you put into words and statements a way to actually thank moms? It's a challenge each year to stumble across what I'm going to say or how we're going to go about it. We could put together a beautiful video with cute pictures and the perfect music and illustrate it in art. And you can put together the perfect paragraph, but nothing can really articulate thank you to Mom. I'll call my mom later today. She'll be happy to hear my voice. But I can't quite get to the point where I can actually tell her how thankful I am for her. So for any mothers out there who had weird sons like me, forgive us as we stumble across our words today trying to say thank you. So I sometimes wish I knew how a mother thinks or what it's like to be a mom. I'm a father, so I kind of have an idea. I know what the burden feels as a father. I know the depth of love a father feels. I know the feeling that there's more I should be doing and teaching and showing my kids. I know how I want my children to grow up, but helping them through the difficulties is always daunting. I know the dad I want to be because I know that I want them to have someone to look up to in faith, but I struggle to be that man consistently. I know these things, but I don't know what it's like to be a mother. A day of flowers and chocolates and saying thanks seems pretty pathetic when compared to an every job of being a mom. But here we are, another Mother's Day 2021, man-made holiday, as we try our best to say thanks. Now, I have a wonderful mom. She won't hear what I'm about to say, so I can say whatever I want because my mom doesn't have the internet. I trust me, she doesn't have the internet. I know in 2021, but they don't have that, so she can't look back and see this unless she goes to my sister's house. So I can say whatever I want. I'm not gonna say anything bad. I had a wonderful mom, but she wouldn't want me to dote on her this morning. She loved me when I messed up. She showed me faithfulness when she didn't know that I was watching. She taught me so many things. She was always available, even after a hard day's work, where she would come home and have more job to do because she was a mom. She always had time for me, though. Today, I want to think about what it takes to be a faithful mother. I want to look at what it takes to be a faithful mother. I want to look at some biblical examples of motherhood, and I want us to see what we can learn. And I want us to think of motherhood with the backdrop of the following question. How can I raise my children to be faithful and become faithful adults? How can I raise my children to be faithful children and become faithful adults? Well, first, we really need to define what being faithful is. Hebrews 11:1 says that faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the certainty of things not seen. So if I have faith in Jesus, that means I am assured in this life that He is the way, the truth, and the life, and that nobody comes to the Father except through Him. And I believe that wholeheartedly, even though I cannot see Him. This is more than head knowledge, though. To be certain of things we hope for carries with it an expectation that we are actively living out this faith. This is backed up by the statement that James makes in his letter in chapter 2, verse 19, where he states, "You say you have faith, for you say there is one God. Good for you. Even the demons believe that and tremble in terror." See, belief is one thing, but faith is another. To be faithful predicates a lifestyle. You are so certain of what you believe that it has actually changed who you are. I was lost and I was found. I was blind and now I see. You become new. You become something different. Colossians 3 says it this way. Since you have been raised to new life with Christ, set your sights on the realities of heaven, where Christ sits at the place of honor at God's right hand. Think about the things of heaven, not the things of earth. For you died to this life, and your real life is hidden with Christ in God. And when Christ, who is your life, is revealed to the whole world, you will share in all his glory. Paul goes on in Colossians 3 to talk about a faithful life and how that puts to death certain ways that you were living. You become a completely different person. Now, yes, praise God, because I don't need to be who I was, even though I was 9 when I accepted Jesus. But anyways, I digress. Chris is going to break down the letter of Colossians for us the next few weeks. We're going to really be studying in this letter. So I would challenge you to read that letter this week as we get ready to study that for a few weeks. It's become my favorite letter that Paul wrote, and it reveals to the whole world who Jesus is, that he is supreme, that he is almighty. I think it's going to be well worth our time to study that. So as you can see, to be faithful places a demand of change on the believer. And this is where we tend to run into some issues. I'm not going to stand up here and declare for you who is and who isn't faithful. That's not my job. It's not my reason for being up here this morning. I will issue a quick warning, though. If you like Jesus and are okay with church, but you aren't willing to change, then I have to wonder if you're living faithfully. I wonder if it's translated from belief into faith. Lots of people believe in God. But as I look at culture, few seem willing to live out their faith in front of the world. That's why the verse in James is so cutting to us. You believe in God, that's great. So do demons, and they tremble. That's scary. I want to be faithful. The object of a Christian parent is to raise faithful children, to pass on faith from generation to generation. I can't imagine being a parent and my chief concern not be the salvation of my children. Sadly, though, I've watched as parents almost refuse to talk about their faith with their children, leaning on the children's ministry and the youth ministry to teach them about Jesus. The best youth minister in the world, of which I am very far from, cannot make up for the lack of willingness of parents to teach faith to their children. I can't do it. I can't make up for it. They will follow your example. We have to ask ourselves, what are the things that are most important to us as parents? Is my child's faith in Jesus the most important thing, or is academics or sports or getting into that right college or a high-paying job with lots of money? When we push our children to achieve academically and in sports, but don't push them to know God, to learn and to trust God, we set them up for faith in what the world offers, not faith in Christ. Now, trust me, I'm not saying that expectations of our children in education and in sports is a bad thing necessarily. I think we should try to push our children to learn and grow physically and mentally because it's good for them. What I've witnessed over and over, though, through about 16 years of youth ministry, is parents who are more worried about their children's education and sports and not so worried about whether they know Jesus. I've heard parents say that they don't want to force God on their children by making them go to church because they don't want them to grow up to resent the church. And I believe that that's a lie that Satan has very craftily told us. There's a healthy way, guys, to have expectations of your child when it comes to church and youth programs and God. There's a healthy way to do it. We don't want to force feed them, but we do want to feed them. Proverbs 22:6 says, "Direct your children onto the right path, and when they are older, they will not leave from it." I love the word direct that is used at the beginning of that. Direct your children. It makes me think of an orchestra with a conductor. The conductor directs a beautiful piece of music by helping to set the right tempo. That's the first job, to set the right tempo. He uses the tempo and the dynamics of the music to bring about moments of vulnerability, soft moments of vulnerability, and makes musical swells of powerful moments of breathtaking beauty. A good conductor interprets the music and sells the musicians on the idea that if they follow him, they will stay together and they will make beautiful music together. Now, using that analogy, if a conductor doesn't have any expectations of his brass section because he doesn't want them to not like him, the brass section can easily overpower the rest of the orchestra, and it will make the piece of music unlistenable. Now, I don't know if you've ever been around trumpet players or not, but they tend to be wanting to be pretty loud. Right, honey? I'm just joking. She's actually a fantastic trumpet player, but you guys have never gotten to hear her play. And she's not one of those loud ones. But if the conductor doesn't control every aspect of it, the orchestra will not work right. To direct someone is different than to force feed. Directing involves walking with, helping them see where they can improve. Force feeding doesn't do anything but make the person hate the food. Now, I remember when I was about 8 years old sitting at the dinner table for a very long time one night because I really didn't want to eat my mom's boiled Brussels sprouts. Yeah, I did not want to eat them. What I found to be true, though, is that Brussels sprouts are really awesome when cooked with a lot of bacon and onion. Imagine that. A bunch of bacon makes tiny cabbages taste good. It makes almost anything taste good, you're right. And so we direct our child onto the ways of the Lord, and they will not move from it. See, if my mom had just cooked the Brussels sprouts and bacon and onion years ago, I might have liked them quicker. Well, it's not a perfect analogy, as I was forced to eat it, and I didn't want to. And I only liked it later on in life when I found out there was a better way to make it. But my mom did make sure that I was in church every Sunday. I still remember that she was my Sunday school teacher when I was 2 to 3 years old. I remember being in her Sunday school class and her teaching me. I remember thinking that was cool that I got to have my mom be my Sunday school teacher. She taught me about God from a young age. As I was preparing what I wanted to speak today, I thought I need to just delve deeply into one of the famous mothers in Scripture. And we're going to just dig right into that. And I thought that would be the right way to go. And surely we will probably do that at some point or another down the road. However, I realized that it might be a better route to just kind of highlight some qualities I see in multiple mothers in Scripture. So let's take, for instance, Hannah. Hannah was the wife of Elkanah, and she was unable to have children. Year after year, she would travel with her husband and his other wife, Peninnah. I can't say that name. I'm just going to, Peninnah, whatever. Anyways, they would go to worship at the tabernacle and offer sacrifices each year. And each year, Peninnah would taunt Hannah because of her inability to have children. So Hannah wept and cried and prayed that she would become a mother. One year, Eli, the priest, overheard her weeping and praying bitterly, and she made a vow to God. It's 1 Samuel 1:11. O Lord Almighty, if you will look down upon my sorrow and answer my prayer and give me a son, then I will give him back to you. He will be yours for his entire lifetime. And as a sign that he has been dedicated to the Lord, his hair will never be cut. What's interesting about this is that while Hannah is praying in anguish, Eli the priest is watching her, and he thinks she's drunk. So he tells her, "Throw away the wine, woman." And so she sits there and she tells him about her struggle. And Eli says to her, "May the God of Israel grant the request you have asked of him." Fast forward a little bit, and Hannah does become pregnant. And she gives birth to a son named Samuel. She raises Samuel until he is weaned and then returns him to the tabernacle to dedicate him to God. He grows up in the tabernacle and becomes a great prophet of Israel. God used him to anoint both Saul and David as kings of Israel. And this is not possible if Hannah isn't faithful. Hannah was humble. She knew that her child belonged to God, and she did what she had to do to give him back to God, even if that meant him growing up away from her. God used him in a powerful way, and we see in Hannah a stunning example of a mother. What about Jochebed? Through the understanding of genealogies, we know her to be Moses' mother, even though the birth account of Moses doesn't actually give her name. We know this because of Exodus chapter 6, where it breaks down the ancestors of Moses and shows how Amram married Jochebed and bore to him Miriam, Aaron, and Moses. We all know what happened, though. She didn't want Moses to be killed, as Pharaoh was having all of the Hebrew children, all the Hebrew boys that were born, killed. So she put him in a basket and floated him down the river in hopes that he would be saved. Pharaoh's daughter found him and took him as her own child. Jochebed was even chosen by Pharaoh's daughter to be the woman that nursed Moses so that he could eat. Now you might be wondering, okay, so a woman sticks her baby in a basket, floats him down the river. How exactly is that an example to us? No, I don't want you to put your children in a basket and float them down the river, even though you might want to sometimes. The law of that day was that the Hebrew boys be thrown into the Nile to die when they were born. Jochebed kept him hidden for 3 months. Imagine keeping a baby that cries all the time hidden for 3 months, and prepared a basket with pitch in it to keep the water out. She floated him down the Nile where Miriam, Moses' older sister, watched over him, and the basket found its way to Pharaoh's daughter, who felt compassion for the child. See, Jochebed had a plan to save her child, and God blessed that plan. Now, what's interesting, and what I just kind of ran across this week, and I forgot to mention in first service, is that there's a pretty good case to be made that Jochebed and Amram were alive when the Exodus took place. So the baby that they saved through the floating down the Nile came back to save them. That's kind of cool. What's your plan to save your child? Now, we know that Jesus does the saving. We can't save them for them. Jesus does that. But what is your plan to help your children know the saving grace of Jesus? There are so many amazing examples of mothers in Scripture. Think about Mary and the humility and grace that she had. That's why she was chosen to be the mother of God, the mother of Jesus. You also see the faithfulness of Naomi, who went back to her people after her husband died and her daughter-in-law's husbands, her sons, died. Ruth came with her, and even though Naomi told her that she would be better off to stay with her people, the Moabites, Ruth decided to stay with Naomi, and Naomi became her mother, helping her secure a new husband in Boaz. Naomi shared her faith with Ruth, and Ruth became the great-grandmother of David. She's in the lineage of Christ because of Naomi's faithfulness. There's so many examples of faithfulness that we could go into. The Bible is full of stories of faithfulness. What about some more modern-day examples, though? What about Amy Carmichael? Amy Carmichael founded the Dohnavur Fellowship that was an orphanage for young children from India. The children she saved were not her own, but they were temple children who were dedicated to the gods by the Indian people. These children would become temple prostitutes. Amy saw how the children were being used and decided she needed to do something about it. She developed the orphanage and saved thousands of children from a life of prostitution. She loved so many children that weren't her own because she wanted them to know Jesus. She wanted them to know God. What about Morrow Graham, who along with her husband Frank would do devotions with their children, and each morning they would pray over their children? Morrow's faithfulness is well documented by the fact that her son Billy grew up to be the most influential evangelist in our modern times. Billy Graham knew how faithful his mother was. Let's get a little closer to home, though. How about a wonderful woman that I never met named Gertie Sperry? Listen to what was written about her and stated at her funeral. Gertrude Mabel Sperry was a woman blessed with an indomitable spirit, a deep, abiding faith, and a long life filled with love. In many ways, Grandma's life was like one of the hundreds of quilts she constructed during her 95 years. Fashioned with practical fabric, it was sturdy and durable. And yet, because of a conscious choice made in texture and design, the gentle patience in the stitching, it became a cherished heirloom of great beauty, lovingly crafted to provide comfort for decades. And just like so many of the quilts she gave away, she gave her life to God, her family, and her friends. We don't have Grandma with us anymore, but we always have the memories of her life to keep us warm. The statement goes on to share about this godly woman and paints the picture of someone who cared deeply about the faith of her family. A few of you here may know the woman that I'm talking about. I never met her. But her daughter, Joni Veal, was very special to this church. And her grandson, Jay Wager, is an elder who helps lead this church. Gertie's faithfulness is still being felt in this church, even though she's been gone for 25 years. Well, speaking of Joni Veal, she was an impressive woman. The way she cared for others was beautiful. She raised her family to honor God. She loved the Word of God, and she knew it well. She lived out faithfulness for others to see. I remember, I still have this vivid picture of her walking around the sanctuary every Sunday morning, greeting everybody that walked in. If there was a new person that showed up that Sunday, checking our church out, man, she was right there. Because she wanted them to feel comfortable. She wanted them to know that this was a place they could know Jesus. In a way, Joni was kind of a mother to us all. I also never met Leela Hahn. From what I found out, she was baptized in a horse trough in Arizona before Arizona was even a state, when she was 12 years old. She's the mother of Linda Hill, grandmother of Lisa Hood, and great-grandmother of the Hood children. Most of them were in the first service. Generational faith. Her faith is now extended to yet another generation, as Liam was born to Lauren McKay, making him Layla's great-great-grandson. Generational faith. It's beautiful. Another faithful mother that I never met was Betty Schwartz. She was faithful in teaching the Word of God. She wanted people to know Jesus. That's a theme with all these women. We have so many faithful members of our church family that are here because of her example. Most of them sit right here on a Sunday morning, first and second service. So when I think about a faithful mother, I think about Shirley Gute. She had a beautiful faith. She raised her children to know the Lord and was eager for her grandchildren to know the saving grace of Jesus. I remember talking with her just a couple days before she died. We were sitting there in the hallway lined up to get our pictorial directory pictures, and my wife and I got to just sit there and talk with her while we waited. She was such a neat woman, and we miss her, and her faith was so beautiful. I think about Alice McCollum, another one who I didn't really get to know, but I found out that she was a faithful woman who desired to serve God by teaching children. That was what she felt her duty was. She wanted them to know Jesus. She was faithful. I think about Velva Kendall, another woman I never met. Her daughter with special needs, and she helped form the Sunday school class, the King's Treasures, that we have at this church. This class seeks to teach Jesus to some amazing people. I think about Kathy Reichert, who loves all of our children. And she wants desperately for them to know Jesus. She's such an amazing children's minister, and we are so blessed to have her. She passed her passion for children on to her daughter, Alicia, who is in the process of loving a child through adoption. What a beautiful thing. What better way to show the love of Jesus than to adopt a child and teach them about Jesus? I think about Terry Beard, who has been a foster parent to countless children, loving children who needed the love of a mother in a very trying time. She also adopted Clark and daily helps him to know his Father in heaven. There's so many examples. There's more I could get into. I see some new mothers in this congregation that are seeking to share their faith with their children. Let me encourage you for a moment. Being a mother will never be considered easy. There are trials and frustrations, but your job as a mother, and fathers, this goes for you too. You're not off the hook. Your job is to help your children know Jesus. I think about all the faithful women that we highlighted today. They weren't perfect. They won't go down in history as the pillars of our faith, but we can see the lasting effects of their faithfulness because they took it seriously. Because it wasn't just belief, it was faithfulness. They directed their children along the right path. My hope is that my great-great-grandchildren will be taking their children to church and teaching them about Jesus. I want to leave a legacy of faith. I can think of no more important thing I can do than to show my children the love of Jesus. I'm so thankful for my mother who showed me her faith. I'm so thankful for all the mothers who are here today. And I hope that you are encouraged to direct your children to the Lord.